Good evening, viewers, and welcome to Calypso Showcase. Well, with all the excitement of the Olympics and Carrie Festa, it's been some time since we've had a live Calypsonian on our program. And tonight our special guest is Clifton Ryan. You know him in the Calypso world as the Mighty Bomber. Bomber, welcome to Calypso Showcase.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, the name Bomber. How early did you adopt that name as your sobriquet?
Well, I can remember that I was born in Grenada, and there's a gentleman called Mr. Oswald Buxo. When he heard that I was writing and singing calypsos, he invited me to his home to sing to him, and I did. I had no sobriquet at the time, and when I sang the first calypso, he said, "That is a bomb. We should call you Bomber," and the name stuck.
And when you came to Trinidad for the first time, I know we'll talk about this in the Predator video, how did the name go down with the public?
Oh yes, immediately they took to it because there was also a young man here at the time, I think he was from San Fernando, and he carried the sobriquet Bomber. I remember at a preliminary somewhere in the 1957 it was, yes. We went to the prelims, and the deceased, Mr. Andrew Carr, said, the next singer would be the Bomber. And so two persons stood up, myself and that gentleman, and he said, well, we have two bombers here, so you all will have to sing for the name. And fortunately, it was for me that the crowd went for me, and the name stayed. The gentleman who stood out of the Calypso arena because of that. He's still around. I see him now and again.
You know, not many people know that I think as many as 3 of your children sing Calypso. Can you tell us about that?
I have my children. Cheryl Ryan, she is now an evangelist. She's a Christian, and she was excellent. She used to sing calypsos. I mean, everything I taught her, she used to take it. And
what's her sobriquet?
Singing, she was Princess B. Princess B. And then after she ousted out from the Calypso arena, she went to WIST, West Indian School of Theology, and she studied for the Christianity business. And eventually my son came into the arena, who we know as the Young Bomber. He also carries my name, Clifton Ryan Jr. And he was going fine. He was going guns. While I was out, he was there, keeping the flag flying. And I also have a daughter. She's now Sharon Ryan Harvey. She's married, and she's still singing. She sings calypso.
Well, she did back up behind you.
Oh yes,
in the recent
she did.
Competition.
Recently, yes. She sings anything. She sings songs, she sings calypsos, she backs up people and what have you. She just loves to sing.
Well, as usual, we're going to give you an edited view of Bomber's Calypso life, and then we'll come back live where you can call in, have a chat, throw a question at the Mighty Bomber, anything like that. So let's take in the Mighty Bomber. From Fort Picton on Laventille Hill, one can look south and turn eastwards and get a panoramic view of a section of Trinidad that is hardly seen like this. The fort itself has stood here for many a year and is one of the few sites that are hardly seen by Trinidadians. Today we talk to the Mighty Bomber, where this particular fort is important to him because it's just a stone throw from where he lives, and it's also very close to the Laventille Northwestern cultural movement of which he is the president. Indeed, it's a pleasure to talk to a stalwart like the Mighty Bomber on Calypso Showcase. And Bomber, let me first extend our welcome to you.
Well, thank you very much, Alvin. It's been a pleasure because I was wondering when my time would come, and thank God, here it is.
Well, I think we couldn't have chosen a better time. Your performance in the last Carrie Festa competition sort of placed a stamp on your career that I think has brought you that final respect that you so richly deserve.
Yes, I think so. That has been coming for some time. I expected it. Nevertheless, I thought I should have been a little closer to the top. But being a veteran that I am, I always goes for the judge's decision and accept it as final.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on, but for now we want to throw our minds back to the early years of the Bomber. We know that you were born in Grenada. You are a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. But let's talk about your early years in Grenada.
Well, I can remember far back as when I was about 12 years old. I had known people like Mr. Grant, G.C. Grant, that is. I think he was a Trinidadian. And Mr. Pilton Holas and people like that. And I used to sing at first. I used to sing songs. I used to go to cinema, and as soon as I go to the theater, any song that was sung, as I came out, I knew it from beginning to end. And then I began to compose at the age of 12. I tried my hand, and people heard me, and they said, "Boy, you're doing a wonderful job. Why don't you enter the competitions that they have at the Queen's Park?" In those days, there were not very many Calypsonians in Grenada. I can remember a young man whom I gave his name. Unfortunately, he's not alive today. He died in 1991. Young Melody, I called him. And there was a fellow called Shadow. He died too. I gave Melody his name, but Shadow, we were all friends. We competed. I won. I won from 1941 until 1947 in Grenada. And then came the visits by Lord Kitchener, Pretender, the real killer, not the young killer, and Viking, Viper, and those people. And they met me. I was a little boy. They used to stay at a club. I couldn't enter that club. It was prohibited. But because of what they heard of me, they applied to Mistress and Mr. and Mistress Pico. Mr. Pico being Mistress Pico's son. And they had a club there, and they said, "Would you kindly give him passage, let him enter?" And Pico said, "Yes, he can come up, but not into the club." There was a little house adjacent to the club and so on. So I used to be there. And I sang for them, and Viper in particular told me, "Boy, you could do well in Trinidad." And then that is when I allowed them to know that my father, Fitzroy Ryan, was a Trinidadian. He was born in Belmont, Sorana Road, yes, to be exact. And so they said, "Well, all right, you're nearly one of us." So I thought about it. That is about 1954.
You said that you won the Calypso crown in Grenada for 7 consecutive years, and that's a fantastic achievement in any language.
Yes.
Can you tell us some of any of the tunes that you sang during that 7-year span?
I remember the very first tune I sang was a tune called Foul Thief. I can't remember the entire lyrics now, but there was a woman, she was a fish vendor and so on, and it was alleged that she stole a fowl from some neighbors and what have you. I got to hearing that, and I composed that Calypso, and it was a laughable thing all over the place, till the woman even threatened to use her fish knife on me and what have you. So I used to hide when I saw that woman. That was my first song. And after that, I sang a tune called Juvenile Delinquency. And I could remember when E.M. Gary came to Grenada and started a union and a political group. He took to me too, and I used to sing on his platform. And I sang in one of the competitions, Uncle G, meaning Uncle Gary, is the leader. I won with that one too. And on to the other 3 or 4 years, I did various tunes. Some of them I cannot remember. But I competed against people like Young Melody, the Shadow of Grenada, and Covadis, and people like that, until I migrated in 1956.
So can you remember the date of your arrival in Trinidad?
Yes, exactly, precisely the 13th of June, the year 1956, I landed in Trinidad. And the fellows took to me as soon as they heard me sing. People like Striker and even Massey and these people at the Calypso Club at the time, MI Building. And they didn't know I was an illegal immigrant and what have you, but pride knew. Because as soon as I got to home, he asked me how I came. I told him the truth because, to be quite honest, I don't like to tell any lies. And I stayed around for some time. But a Calypsonian, after I entered the tents in 1957.
Which tent did you enter?
The old brigade, so to speak. It was referred to as the old brigade. There were people like Spoiler and Tiger and Sagalba and Skipper and what have you. And that was situated at the old ice house, which was adjacent to the Hotel de Paris at the time. And there I sang my first calypso. I recreated juvenile delinquency in 1957. And I could remember on the first night when I sang, I was called back 4 times. And Sagalba said, boy, all your Grenadians want to take over this thing. I remember he saying that. And so on. I tell him, well, I am not a full-blooded Grenadian. My father was born trying to be one, what have you. But at the time, I didn't know he too was a Grenadian.
What is very interesting too was that in 1957 there was a competition in Trinidad, the 10th anniversary of Radio Trinidad, and what was the name of that tune?
Radio Trinidad's 10th anniversary. That's appropriate. I gave it that name. I think I could remember a bit of the chorus. I can't remember the lyrical content of the verse, but it was Radio Trinidad 10th anniversary. Oh Lord, oh Lord. Radio Trinidad 10th anniversary. Oh Lord, oh Lord. In the year 1947, yes, that's historical. The declaration of the station in action was a sensation, to join in the festival. It was beautiful.
True old way minor.
Oh, yes. And they declared me that I won. And the prize at that point in time was $200. And when I got it, I decided, well, I live at Pride and I would give him half and so on. And I did. And Mr. Reiner, I got my first suit. Mr. Reiner had assisted me and he showed me where to buy some cloth. It was a blue suit, real blue. And he showed me where to buy some cloth and he made it for me free of charge.
Now, records show that in 1963 you made it to the Monarch finals for the first time, yes, singing a calypso called Pages of History. Relive that year for us.
Well, in 1957 I started to sing. In 1958 I sang Gloria. In 1959 Federated Islands. In 1960 Bomber's Sister and what have you. In 1961 I did Tribute to Government and what have you. And in 1962 I did Tubal Uriah Buzz Butler. And in 1963 Pages of History. My first selection, as I said, my finalist. I was fully supported by Lord Melody. He took to me, he encouraged me and what have you. I went to the Savannah, but first time, I had goose pimples, I remember quite clearly. I was nervous, my hand was cold. Although I sang well, but I think with a little more experience, I would have sang better.
It was at the public library in the month of January. I was going through the pages of history. Not a page was tuttered or torn of some heroes now dead and gone. Well, look, I never see records so since I born. Captain Cipriani, that trade union leader, Andrew Carr for history and culture, the mighty maestro Douglas Spoiler for calypsos. They were pros, the late George Bailey, famous band leader, Chief Servant T. Uriah Buzz Butler, another 1,005,700 and heaven knows. So you see, it's written that they may never be forgotten. Well, all right, for the young, the old, the rich, and the poor to see. Oh, gee, I say it's written, and they will never be forgotten. So now tell them for me, good Lord.
Written in the pages of history.
That's right. La da dee dee die. La da dee 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 die, la da da. Some of glorious memories, others again tragic fatalities. But all of them people we used to see, most of them in the Hall of Fame, but only names and memories remain. And some of them we wish could come back again. Mr. Everett King, athletics sprinter, Rafi Knowles, that sports commentator, Sam Ghani and Frisco Torrealba for radio. And so the late Ken Gordon, that famous footballer, Yolan Pompey, a top-class boxer, and Penn Bennett, that jockey we used to know. Oh, it's written that they may never be forgotten. Well, all right, for the young, the old, the rich, and the poor to see. Oh, gee, I say it's written, and they will never be forgotten. So now tell them, Millie, good Lord,
Written in the pages of history.
all right.
Now, Bomber, you called some tunes in the early part of your career between 57 and 63. Mm-hmm. I particularly remember Worse Than That, and perhaps you could give, for the benefit of viewers, a little taste of a couple of those early calypsos.
Yes, Worse Than That. Oh, that was a gem. That is my way of thinking. It goes something like this. I meet a man in my house with my wife. If was you, you would have taken life. I meet a man in my house one night. If was you, you would have out the light. No, but I am a bad-minded fella. I plan something worse for the mister, but ashamed to tell you where I do. You might try it too. People ask me, you beat up the man? I say, worse than that. You cut off his hand? I say, worse than that. Well, I called him mister by name. All the lamp in his face and I make him shame. that was worse than that.
How could I forget
Beautiful.
Another one was Bomber's Sister.
Oh, yes, that was a gem. Now, some people who are not relatively close to Calypso, they seem to term it as a smut. It is not a smut. It carries a double entendre, I agree, but it is not a smut. It says, my sister came home one evening, shedding tears and groaning with pain. I say perhaps she slipped because I know she liked to skip. She must fall down and get a strain. I asking my sister, girl, what happened? She whining like hell, but she saying nothing. She closed tear down, she top lip swell, and the girl blowing short like hell. Now mommy send she to buy some flour. She run way to play with Philip. I don't know what happened, but she climb up a tower. The girl fall down and bust she lip. She say she got stick with a lime bud prickle, as if she feel I didn't know. But the hole in she lip, I mean the way that it rip, it take a cactus to choke she so. That was, you know.
That's what it is.
Oh yes, people enjoyed those kind of calypsos, you know. And between 57 and 60, we had another one. It was called The Magician. It goes like this. When I was a magician, conjuring tricks all over the nation. Bomber was a magician, conjuring tricks all over the nation. Some people used to tell me that ain't true. When I tell them all the tricks that I can do, as simple as kissing hand, they didn't believe that I am a magician. But where they talking? And when I tell them that I could give people life, they doubting. Last week Saturday, you know, I gave a man and his wife. They still doubting. But while they waiting on me to tell, I watch them right in front of the face. I say, hocus pocus, all you do smoke, and give them a life cigarette. That time it had a cigarette on the market that they call Life and so on. you know, and there are a lot of other calypsos that I would know bits and pieces of. As a matter of fact, I have the copies home with me, you know, but if I have to fall back on them, I will, because I keep the copies, but I don't keep records because I want to be creative all the time, you know, and not to fall back on old tunes and repeat myself. Maybe I do it lyrically because the language is there for us to utilize. But as for tunes, I don't like to fall back.
Now, after 1963, your trip to the Savannah, and like many other Calypsonians, that experience you get of mashing the Savannah yard works for you the next time around. And 1964, one of the high points in your career. Tell us about that.
1964 it was. I was then removed from Sparrow's tent. Because I say removed, Lord Melody came and he introduced me to a new tent. He said at the point in time I was getting $100 a week at the Sparrows Young Brigade. At that point in time it was the original Young Brigade. And he introduced me to Mr. Samaru at the Strand Cinema, and they offered me $200. So that was a 100% increase. And I accepted. And I went there, and from the time I hit the stage on opening night, the public said, that's a winner.
So we start with Bomber's Dream, because I think, you know, that captured the imagination of a lot of people, because Spoiler, who had died in 1960, had left a void in the Calypso world, and for you to sort of bring back those memories really tickled the fancy of most of the patrons.
Right, I'll tell you about this, what caused me to sing that Calypso. Spoiler was my personal friend. He took to me on from the day I landed in this country, and he urged me on. He liked my style, and I loved his. And when he died, those who are still alive that can remember, when the casket was leaving the church, and they attempted to put it into the hearse, I asked, and I remember quite clearly, what are you all doing? And they said, well, put it in the casket. I said, nah, man, we walk in that. And we took it, I think it was St. Margaret's, and we bore the casket from that point up to the cemetery. As I walked, I saw him. As I slept, I saw him. As I closed my eyes, I saw him. So he was there with me, and I think the only thing to get him away was to sing about him. And it came to me, and I wrote. And I said, I was dreaming and a dream of a bounce up spoiler, telling him that I am a hard luck fella. A dreaming in me dream and a bounce up spoiler, telling him how I had luck in Calypso. I told him every year I singing good Calypso song, and everything I do, bomb, I doing it wrong. This year I want to be Calypso king, so I tell Spoiler, give me a song to sing. He turn and tell me, sing about Alice in Wonderland, how she shed so much tears in a pitch oil pan, and when the pitch oil tin overflow, the girl swim from tongue to San Fernando, me darling. You see, because I was singing with the feelings that I was singing for my best friend who has now departed, and I remembered his way of doing it. He was one of the most creative, not one of the, he was the most creative Calypsonian that ever walked on this earth, and I haven't seen anyone to match him, not as yet. Maybe not in 100 years.
Now, Joan and James, though, really put the icing on the cake. I mean, and I think the last verse of that, more than anything else, if any judge had any doubt, that last verse really took you home.
Oh, yes. Now, Joan and James, as people may not tend to believe or tend to know, it is Calypso autobiography in Calypso. Because it is a story about me and my wife. The only thing that is fictitious about it are the names. And because to say Clifton and to say my wife's name is Jean Dawn, and to say that, you would not have get that melodic flow that you wanted. So that is the fiction in it, the name Joan and James, you know. And I said, two little children, Joan and James, down by the seaside playing games. two little children, James and Joan, playing games by themselves alone. Joan asks James what he wants to play. He making style and he wouldn't say. Whenever I remember, I just had to laugh. The little saga boy turn and he tell the craft, he say, dying, dying. Tom Larry play to mommy. If you hear him, you is the mommy. And then he tell she, I is the daddy. He gone again, dying, dying. Make up the bed, yeah, we do. And when you wake up tomorrow, me and you don't mind to popo. Oh,
and you recall the last verse of that, Calypso, because I think that tells it all.
That is it. Two big people now they living still in a pretty little shack up Laventille with 5 little children, if you want to know, is the favorite games that have them so. If you see them how they living like mom and dad, so many popos to represent Trinidad. You may think that I'm lying, but it's true, you see, because Joan is my wife and James is me and is dying, dying. Tom Larry play little mommy. If you hear him, you is the mommy. And we tell she, I is the daddy. He gone again, dying, dying. Make up the bed, yeah, we do. So if you come up tomorrow, you go see them 5 little popo.
Now, defending your crown is considered one of the most difficult things in Calypso.
Yes.
And the following year, 1965, I mean, they had some real competition, the Terror, and this guy who sang Portrait of Trinidad, the Lord's Mighty Sniper.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was, I'm glad you mentioned that, because people have the tendency to doubt. But Reginald Joseph, who now resides in the USA, he would know, and Nap Hepburn also knows. And it may be surprising to the public to hear me say this. I am the person who wrote Portrait of Trinidad. To tell you the story, it is too long, but I'll give you briefly. Len Ward came to me with a copybook with 9 calypsos in it, one of which was entitled Under My Rug. A few days after Sniper came to me, he had problems. He disclosed them to me. I promised to keep them a secret. He's dead, and I still have it a secret. Not even my wife knows. And I helped him. I wrote Portrait of Trinidad. On my way, trying to get through for him, because it was 2 weeks before the season, I remembered that Len had 2 lines in his calypso called Under My Rug. That is the 2 lines that you heard where Mr. Universe was mentioned in that calypso, and I used it. And Sniper went right through till he won the crown, beating me and all. And then Len realized that the 2 lines that he had in his calypso was sung in that calypso. And he came to me and he actually threatened me. Said he has to be paid and what have you. And I said, well, I did a favor. I like to help people and so on. I carried him where Sniper was at the point in time. And Sniper gave him a note. He went to Sniper's wife and he got $1,000 from her for his contribution. That was the end of it for me until I heard that Len Ward was given an award for writing that particular calypso. But I can tell you, if you really want to know, any one of you out there who wants to know, Reginald Piggy Joseph, ask him, he knows. Nap or Nathaniel Hepburn, he knows that I wrote that song.
For the benefit of people, Len Ward, what was his calypso name?
Yes, Penman.
All right, well, let's talk about your contribution also in that year from a personal point of view, trying to defend your crown.
Yeah, I knew it was tough. It was Bomber fighting against Bomber. And that young man, he was terrific. He had a voice out of this world. He could really put it over. I also had a calypso called Unsolved. And I tried. And I well tried, but the fellow just ran away from me. I enjoyed it. I mean, I'm sorry he's not alive to tell you. I enjoyed it. Because I even told him, you're great, but I'm going to lick you. And he said, okay. We were friends, real good friends. He introduced me to his wife and his kids and what have you. And up to this day, I accept, all things as, I'm a humanitarian person. I love people because they are people. I would help people, and I hope people would want to help me as I help them. And the competitive part of it, to me, it's fun. If you come out on top, yes, you're victorious and you're happy. And when you lose, you should, you don't enjoy losing, but you accept decisions and don't let it be a burden for you.
I think of the late years of the 1960s and then the early 70s, when you really made your mark. You were finalists in many years coming up there, years like 70, 74, 76, and so on. Any of the tunes that you sang in that period stands out in your mind?
If I can remember...
Money is no problem. Ladies and gentlemen, the singer, the father of our first singer, one-time Calypso king, in the person of the mighty Bomber.
Money is no problem. Well, by now you know. In the state of Trinidad and Tobago,
Money is no problem.
So the doctor said, we have money, money, money to give away. I am so proud, we have plenty currency. The nation is living luxuriously. The things that we have, you can't doubt. In a few brief moments, I'll go call them out. We have the best road surface in the whole wide world. We have jobs awaiting every boy and girl. We have beautiful homes built for everyone. Our national stadium is second to none. Our schools are up to date with facilities. Best university in the West Indies. Outstanding facts, you take it from me. Money is no problem. The problem is no money. Well, I have a constitution like honey, sugar, and spice, with good rules and regulation to make life so happy and nice. So I make up my mind to read every line, section, paragraph, and side. No man could survive if he's ever deprived of a constitutional right. Now if you see me on the street like a police on the beat, my constitutional right. And if I sing it everywhere like Frenchie in the square, my constitutional right. But I keep my constitution to read almost every night. Now you may call me a clown, but I could read upside down. The constitutional right. That's right.
I love to sing calypsos. I just was born to sing calypsos. I love to help people with compositions and what have you. Even school children, they come here. I don't know how they find me. Sometimes just about 2 days before their competition, and they come, I help them.
All right, 1980 was the last year that you officially took part before your 9-year break, as it were.
Yeah.
What did you do in that year, and or if you can remember what you sang in that year, and what prompted you to take a rest?
Right. In 1980, I sang Unconditional Love because I was urged by my wife to turn to Jesus. And I don't want any discrepancy between my wife and I. So I said, okay, I'm going to stop singing. She urged me to stop singing. And because I expected to stop singing, I sang Unconditional Love. I can't remember the tune properly now, but it was telling the people to love each other without a condition attached. So I came out of the Calypso arena, and I joined my wife. We went to the church and so on. During the period 81 to 90, I was not actually unhappy, but I was feeling that I'm still a Calypsonian, because people within the church at times would refer to me as Brother B, the B meaning Bomber. So, because my name is Clifton, they never said Brother C or Brother R, Clifton Ryan. They said Brother B. So I say, my God, regardless of what I do from now on, people have me down in their minds as a Calypsonian. as the people would say, once a Calypsonian, always a Calypsonian.
Now, 1990 and USWI, what a tune to come back in the arena with.
Oh boy. I made my preparations to enter back into the arena. And this very fort where we sit now, there's a lower part which we are sitting in, and there's a higher part. I was on the higher part, and I said, I'm going back into the ring. I left at the top. I want to return just about there. What would I sing? And I sat there for a while, and I thought about integration, West Indian integration. I said, I don't want to call my song West Indian integration. I've heard so many songs called by that name or close to that name. So I said, the United States of the West Indies.
Old men does dream dreams, and young men see visions. I have seen a long chain of archipelago islands, and in my vision I heard a voice telling me it is the best choice for people of the region to choose, enjoy and rejoice. Rejoice! I asked the voice to identify who, what, when, where, how, and why. USWI is the answer, the voice replied, which means if we come together as one big happy family, one aim, one goal, free trade, free movement, and one currency. If we pool wisdom and resources in our quest for sufficiencies, Bomber, tell them your vision, please. The United States of the West Indies. Bum, 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 bum.
The public say, oh my God, this man was just resting. You know, people have the tendency to say he hasn't lost his voice, he hasn't lost the diction, how he puts it over, you know, and they just admire everything about me, and that urges me on and keeps me going.
Well, it's history now that you won an NJAC Top 20 award for that, and that was one of the outstanding tunes of the Carib Festa competition recently concluded. Mm-hmm. But most people might not remember 1991, another gem, In Memory Of.
Oh yes, In Memory Of. How that came about, you know, sometimes you sit in solitary by yourself and you think about something. I was sitting at the back of where I live, and I remember quite clearly, trying to see if I could number the amount of Calypsonians that has passed on since I landed here. And I started with my very best friend, Spoiler, and Small Island Pride and what have you. And so as I was counting, the idea came, so many? I must put this in song. And then I started to grumble, in memory of, and so on.
This Calypso is in memory of some Calypsonians that we used to love. It makes me sad when I concentrate and remember some of them who used to be great. Mighty Spoiler for his bedbug and twin brother, Small Island Pride for Mastiffy, and Cutouter, Sagalba with his Christmas bumpers, OG, and that famous boo man, the Lord Melody. So I sing it. In memory of, this is in memory of, I just feel to cry when I remember mighty cipher with in memory of, this is in loving memory of, so just wave your hands in memory of some true Calypsonian.
Let's talk about 1992 now, and the tune Sexual Harassment. Very topical and very, to the point.
Yes. 1992, after I came so well in 1991, I say, boy, people still love me. I gotta keep there, What would I write? And every day I would sit by the radio and take in the case with the then Anita Hill and what's his name again? The Judge Thomas. And taking it in. I said, but this is something to put in Calypso.
The more I live is the more I learn. That narrative caused me great concern. To me, it was just another plight against the laws of all human rights. Man tracking woman is nothing new. It all depends what they say and do. To tell the truth, it worrying me still. Judge Thomas and Professor Anita Hill. If a man tell a woman come go to cinema, sexual harassment. If he invites you out to dinner, sexual harassment. Well, if he seek her love and attention, sexual harassment. You hear me? Introduce self-recommendation, sexual harassment. Over the girls here in TNT, harassing them is necessary because they like their kicks very much. Do darling, but see and don't touch. Mama na di, bum 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 bum. Ba 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 bum, bum 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 bum. La 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 la.
I wrote another one called Respect the Women. So I opened the tent singing Respect the Women and it clicked. So I say, my God, well, I must make that semi-finals, boy, because I concentrate on things that, step by step.
Women, men ought to respect them. Women, for unseen circumstances beyond control. Women, don't reject or neglect them. You hear me? Women, the reproductive characters of this whole world, because they are the mothers of sisters and brothers, a wealth of security. Whether old or young, never let them down. They are a gift to humanity. Let me tell you, this world without a woman, all the companion man had was beasts. This world without a woman, tell me how this world would increase. She is a preacher, a teacher, a mother, a lover, no one can deny. So let wisdom prevail, and every male respect a woman till the day she die. Bum, 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 bum.
Any regrets?
As regards to Calypso?
Your life.
Oh no, there were times that you had problems, it was hard. But if I had to live my life all over again, I would gladly do it.
Great talents and skills all over the region. Ancestral blessings and wills mixed with pride and passion. And as we believe in democracy, faith in God and tranquility, our people will prosper from now till eternity. Oh, and when Carifta is said and done, the motto is all are we is one, with a West Indian emblem portraying the rising sun, which means if we come together as one big happy family, one aim, one goal, free trade, free movement, and one currency, The voice told me, take this message please, outlining all its amenities, and saying, Bomber, here are the golden keys to the United States of the West Indies.
And Bomber, we have a little surprise for you. I want you to look at this and tell me what brought it out. Let's look at this now.
Yes.
Oh, we've got a Rima holding on the line.
Oh my God.
Well, that one really shook you up for a change. Well, before we go to a Rima holding on the line, I want some reaction from you. What led to that?
What actually happened was I was the stage manager of Sparrow's Young Brigade, and there was a night in particular when Bill was a little lengthy on stage, and I was wondering how to get him off, because Sparrow was backstage quarreling that he was staying a little too long. And one of my good friends, Tobago Crusoe, was there. I said, my God, Sparrow quarreling, I'm the stage manager, how am I going to get Bill off? So I went on, and I did this little ditty with him on stage in order to get him off, you know, earlier than he should come off earlier, in fact. And it worked.
It became part of the act.
It became part of the act, and even Sparrow himself enjoyed the thing. So we just continued. He continued from the tent, and wherever he performed the song, we just continued to do it. As a matter of fact, Crusoe used to join in at times, and we had a ball.
St. Kitts, Nevis and Anguilla, Cuba, Barbados, Martinique, Montserrat and Antigua, the Cayman Islands, Puerto Rico, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, Dominica, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Hispaniola, and so the Virgin Islands, Haiti, if you please, Guyana and the Netherlands, Antilles, Guadeloupe and the Bahamas, Venezuela, so tell them please. Which means if we come together as one big happy family, one aim, one goal, free trade.